You are listening to Viewpoints from Place Cloud. Cultural researchers tell stories of places from around the world. For the full multimedia experience and to support the creators you enjoy, visit placecloud.io.
The building now known as the Tabernacle, Notting Hill, was originally built as a non-sectarian church in 1869 when Notting Hill was on the fringes of London's expanses. I'm speaking to you today about this site because of its centrality in the building and shaping of community in Notting Hill and North Kensington in the latter half of the 20th century. This particular portion of Notting Hill had been home to many of the notorious slumlord Peter Rockman's most run-down housing in the 1950s and 60s. He was famous, or rather infamous, for renting substandard housing in broken-up terraced homes to Afro-Caribbean migrants and charging them extortionate rates. Because he was willing to rent to black tenants, though, many put up with his practices, at least temporarily, and laid down roots in the area around Powis Square. The square was a popular hangout for many, including local Black Power leader Michael X, which made it, like the nearby Mangrove restaurant, a prominent countercultural site for Black radicals and the white hippies who found them fascinating and followed them around. The old Tabernacle building was under the care of the nearby Anglican parish in the 1950s and 60s, All Saints Church, but it was not used for any sorts of religious purposes. It had instead taken on life as an artistic space, but it remained in extreme disrepair. In the 1960s, hippies squatted the Tabernacle, a historic but run-down religious space, in an effort to preserve the structure. This was done when surrounding buildings were being cleared for a housing trust at the request of the local primarily Afro-Caribbean community, after Rockman had been forced to sell his homes and they had been placed in a housing trust. When it was agreed that the Tabernacle would be turned into a community center, the local Afro-Caribbean community made sure to be included in the planning and programming. However, there was controversy around the man leading the renovation due to perceived racial insensitivities in how he went about with the planning of the center. At the same time, the cultural mystique of this particular corner of Notting Hill, given its connections with the Afro-Caribbean radicals, with hippies, with certain radical squat protests, which you can learn about in a different placecast, allowed some of music's biggest names, including Marvin Gaye and Joe Strummer of The Clash, to stop by and raise awareness for the cause. They perpetuated the cultural cachet of this pocket by doing so. In late 1973, nearby residents called for the council to turn the building into a community space. And Kensington and Chelsea Council was not enthusiastic about this proposal due to the behaviors of some of the radical individuals involved. They offered only to put up some of the needed grant money. It seems this was likely an effort to kill the project indirectly, as they had assumed that the money could not be raised. However, upon application to the Greater London Council's Buildings Unit, and with some extra encouragement from GLC councillor Paul Boateng, enough capital was secured for the project, and work began. Over the decade that followed, the planning for how to use the building served as a source of racial disagreement in the area, with Black residents worrying that white residents were exercising too much control over the process. Ultimately, the renovations finished in 1985, and the building acted as a home to a variety of functions that served the needs and desires of the residents, Black and white, in the community. These included self-defense classes, steel bands for young people, badminton lessons, and meals for the elderly. In the 1990s, the space transformed again in a way to better cater to the needs of the newer Notting Hill residents, middle-class yuppies. Between 1996 and 1998, the Tabernacle Community Center was again updated with the help of public funds, this time reflecting the more upscale tastes of the newer neighbors. Catherine Flett, a writer for The Observer, reviewed the space's new restaurant, The Good Cook, with a bold line that seemed emblematic of the ways in which the neighborhood's transition into a middle-class and posh playground was nearly complete. She wrote in the review, quote, "The Tabernacle is the only community center where you can lunch on squid risotto." On the same square where only 3 decades earlier, Residents feared that poverty and slum conditions would lead to an American-style racial ghetto. A trendy new restaurant, proudly run by Hollywood A-lister Robert De Niro's former private chef from New York City, was making all the headlines. And this reflected change in the neighborhood.